July 6, 1957. Althea Gibson shakes hands with Queen Elizabeth after winning Wimbledon, the first black champion in tennis history. That night, she danced with royalty at the Wimbledon ball. But days later, hotels in Chicago refused to give her a room. Let me tell you what happened. Althea Gibson was born August 25, 1927, on a cotton farm in South Carolina. Her parents were sharecroppers. When she was 3, her family moved to Harlem, New York, escaping the Deep South, but not escaping poverty. She grew up playing paddle tennis in the streets, a scrappy kid who learned to dominate every sport she touched. By 1950, Althea had won 10 straight national championships in the American Tennis Association, the league created for black players because white tennis wouldn't let them in. She was the best player nobody had ever heard of because she couldn't compete where it mattered. The United States Lawn Tennis Association refused to invite her to the U.S. National Championships at Forest Hills. No black person had ever played there, not once, in 146 years. Then Alice Marble stepped in, white champion, 4-time winner, and she was furious. July 1st, 1950, American Lawn Tennis Magazine. Alice Marble wrote an editorial that changed everything. She called tennis sanctimonious hypocrites for keeping Althea out. She wrote, "If tennis is a game for ladies and gentlemen, it's time we acted like it. If Althea Gibson represents a challenge to the present crop of women players, it's only fair that they meet that challenge on the courts." The tennis establishment had no choice. They let her in. August 28, 1950, Althea walked onto the court at Forest Hills. First black woman to compete at a U.S. Grand Slam. She lost in the second round, but she had broken through the door. For the next 6 years, Althea fought. She traveled, she trained, she dominated. 1956, she won the French Open, first black player to win a Grand Slam tournament. July 6, 1957, Wimbledon, the biggest tournament in the world. Althea dismantled her opponent, Darlene Hard, in 50 minutes, 6-1, 6-2, never dropped a set the entire tournament. Queen Elizabeth herself handed her the trophy, first black champion in Wimbledon's 80-year history. Shaking hands with the Queen of England, Althea said later, was a long way from being forced to sit in the colored section of the bus. That night, she danced at the Wimbledon ball with the men's champion, Australian Lew Hode. Tradition and revolution in one moment. Days later, she came home to Chicago, and hotels in Oak Park and River Forest wouldn't give her a room. The Ambassador East Hotel, where every celebrity in America stayed, where Frank Sinatra had a favorite booth, where the Pump Room was the most famous restaurant in the city, refused to rent their dining room for a luncheon in her honor. Days after Wimbledon. After shaking hands with the Queen, Time magazine reported it. And Althea said she didn't hurt anything. The peered children was a date with the Wimbledon, and the Queen that lovely removed a Time magazine. Time tried to feel responsibilities to Negroes, she told Time in 1957. But that was a burden on my shoulders. Now I'm playing tennis to please me, not them. She wasn't being aloof, she was surviving. Every tournament, she was the only black player. Every hotel, every country club, every social event, she faced exclusion. Speaking out meant losing opportunities, losing the chance to compete. She had learned to keep her head down and let her racket do the talking. Black journalists criticized her for it. They called her distant, said she wasn't doing enough for the movement. But they weren't the ones standing alone at every tournament, knowing one misstep could end everything. 1958, Althea won Wimbledon again, won the U.S. Nationals again, #1 in the world, Associated Press Female Athlete of the Year. 2 years in a row, first black woman on the cover of Sports Illustrated, first black woman on the cover of Time. In total, Althea won 56 national and international championships, 11 Grand Slam titles, 5 singles, 5 doubles, 1 mixed doubles. She was untouchable. And then she retired because she was broke. There was no prize money in amateur tennis. Players survived on expense allowances strictly regulated by the USLTA. No endorsements, no sponsorships, no way to make a living. Althea wrote in her autobiography, "Being the queen of tennis is all well and good, but you can't eat a crown." She tried professional tennis, touring with the Harlem Globetrotters, playing exhibition matches before their games. She tried music, released an album, performed on The Ed Sullivan Show twice. She tried acting, landed a role in a John Ford film. She tried golf, became the first black member of the Ladies Professional Golf Association in 1964. Nothing paid. The opportunities that came easily to white champions never materialized for her. She had opened the door, but she walked through it alone. By the late 1990s, Althea Gibson had disappeared from public view. When the Arthur Ashe Stadium opened at the US Open in 1997, the day she turned 70, she wasn't invited to the ceremony. Arthur Ashe, the man celebrated for breaking racial barriers in tennis, had won his first Grand Slam 11 years after Althea won hers. But people remembered him. They forgot her. She died September 28, 2003, at age 76, in relative obscurity. But here's what they should remember. Althea Gibson didn't just break barriers. She did it without a movement behind her, without endorsements, without the infrastructure that later athletes would have. She stood alone at every tournament, faced discrimination at every turn, and still became the greatest player in the world. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. It was survival. She paved the way for Arthur Ashe, for Venus and Serena Williams, for every black tennis player who came after. Without Althea, there is no modern tennis. Shaking hands with the Queen of England was a long way from being forced to sit in the colored section of the bus. Althea Gibson made that journey, and she did it by herself. Follow for more Untold Black History.